For the first time in recorded history, divorce no longer existed. Not legally, not socially, not statistically. Couples who once would have split now stayed together until death. And the world celebrated. But nothing this perfect comes without a cost. Because a 0% divorce rate demands control. Control over who we love, how we communicate, and how we behave. Today we're going to look at the technology that made divorce impossible and decide whether it saved marriage or destroyed it. To understand how a 0% divorce rate is possible, we first need to understand the world before it. At the start of the 21st century, marriage and divorce were still deeply woven into society, but the numbers told a complex story. Across developed nations, crude divorce rates hovered roughly between 1.6 and 3.6 divorces per 1,000 adults per year, depending on the country's laws, culture, and economic conditions. In Chile, the rate was as high as 3.6 per 1,000 adults, while in Colombia it sat near 0.6 per 1,000 adults. Globally, the average divorce rate was close to 1.8 per 1,000 people. But that figure hides huge contrasts. The Maldives, for example, recorded one of the world's highest rates at roughly 5.5 per 1,000, while India's rate stayed near 0.01 per 1,000, largely because of cultural stigma and legal hurdles. Even in countries once thought stable, marital breakdown was common. In the United States and Canada, divorce rates approached 2.8 divorces per 1,000 people, and many Europeans saw similar figures. The reasons were rarely simple: financial pressure, mismatched expectations, infidelity, mental health disorders, even just the slow erosion of romantic intensity over time. Entire industries grew around the breakdown of marriage: law firms, therapists, custody courts, real estate agents. The business of heartbreak was profitable, and the consequences were enormous: children caught between households, adults facing psychological trauma and financial collapse, governments footing the bill through welfare systems. Soon, it became clear that divorce wasn't just a personal event. It was a societal cost center. Economists quantified it, legislators debated it, and technologists began to see an opportunity. If we could predict stock markets, weather patterns, and pandemics, why not relationships? That question, quiet, almost ridiculous at the time, would become the first domino in a chain of decisions that eventually made divorce statistically impossible. The first breakthrough didn't come from psychology or government policy. It came from data science. Machine learning can now predict almost everything: what we'd buy, who we'd vote for, how long we'd live. Companies began collecting massive datasets on couples, personality tests, communication logs, financial history, therapy transcripts, social media behavior, biometric health data. With enough information, patterns emerged, patterns that could predict marital collapse with alarming accuracy. These technology didn't just know who would divorce. They could often tell when, why, and under what conditions. The first commercial product in this space was marketed as a compatibility pre-screening tool, a kind of credit score for your love life. It evaluated emotional stability, conflict resolution styles, sexual compatibility, moral alignment, financial habits, and family expectations. For many couples, it became a quiet reassurance. But governments saw something else entirely: a way to reduce long-term social costs. High-risk couples were flagged for counseling, training, and behavioral interventions. At this stage, divorce rates hasn't disappeared, but they dropped slowly, predictably, and measurably. Because for the first time in history, people were entering marriages the way they entered business partnerships, with data, risk models, and contingency planning. And once data started shaping who got married, The next question was inevitable. Could AI shape how marriages functioned after the wedding day? Smart home systems monitored stress through voice, movement, sleep, and biometrics. Arguments triggered automatic cool-down protocols. Financial strain generated synced budgets and spending limits. Drops in intimacy prompted scheduled shared activities. Governments endorsed it, insurers incentivized it, and within years, marriage became something maintained, like health or credit scores. Divorce rates continued to fall, not because love got easier, but because failure became harder. The only lingering question was subtle but uncomfortable. Were couples still choosing each other, or were they being managed? As divorce rates continued to drop, governments didn't just applaud the results, they legislated them. Marriage licenses became conditional. Couples had to submit compatibility reports and agree to continuous monitoring. Failure to comply didn't lead to divorce, it led to penalties. Higher taxes, reduced benefits, restricted access to housing loans. Religious institutions split. Some embraced the system as proof that marriage was sacred again. Others condemned it as algorithmic idolatry. Socially, the pressure was worse. A couple asking for privacy became suspicious. Declining a compatibility scan was treated like hiding a crime. And those who wanted to leave a marriage without AI approval were quietly labeled instability risks. Privacy activists protested, but they were drowned out by a simple statistic. Marriages were lasting. The public didn't want to hear about ethics when the numbers looked perfect. So the world adjusted, not by fixing love, but by eliminating failure. And by the time anyone noticed what that really meant, the divorce rate had already hit zero. Couples rarely fought anymore. But they rarely decided anything on their own. Dates, finances, intimacy, even apologies were scheduled by a machine that knew what worked. Passion was replaced by compliance. Spontaneity became a glitch. Children grew up watching their parents consult AI before making emotional decisions. They learned that love was not an act of courage, but an optimized workflow. And the most unsettling part? Nobody could prove they were unhappy. Metrics for satisfaction stayed high, arguments stayed low, and the systems reported that humans were thriving. Yet beneath the surface, a quiet question haunted the few who still remembered life before the algorithms. If a marriage can't fail, can it still be called love? Imagine a society with no divorce, but also no escape. A society that can get terrified of divorce, learn something darker. You can't legislate love, and you can't force two humans to remain whole. 0% divorce at the cost of 100% compliance. Do you think it is worth it?
What if AI made decisions that change your everyday life? Welcome to AI Scenarios, where we turn real-life AI possibilities into short, powerful stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss your daily dose of AI reality. Welcome to the future, one scenario at a time.